Hey there, Mama Work It Tribe. I'm Marissa Lonick, working mom of 4, lover of all things flow, family, and fulfillment. You're tuning in to the Mama Work It podcast, where we take aim at overwhelm, mom guilt, and exhaustion and swap them out for big dreams, belly laughs, and productivity that actually fits into your life. Every week, we dive into tips, motivation, and a healthy dose of fun so you can slay your day even when you're busy AF. Ready to feel seen, energized, and totally unstoppable? Let's get to work, mama. Hello, mama friends, listeners. I am so excited to be back. Season 6 of the Mama Work It podcast. If you are just finding us here, or you're new in town, or you've forgotten who we are because I took a couple months off from the podcast as I normally do every year in the summertime. My name is Marissa Lonick. I am your host. I'm also the founder of Mama Work It, where we support women in the juggle of mom life, wife life, work life, fill in the blank life, all the lives that we lead. And so I'm so glad you're here. I'm also a working mama of 4 kiddos. Right now, they are ages 11, 8, and 5. It is birthday season in our house, so those numbers are changing as we speak. So anyways, it is so good to be back. So good to be recording again. So good to chat. Always good to step away though, especially from work that requires a lot of creativity like this show. So I'm back with a fresh mind, fresh perspective, lots of new ideas, super excited. And thank you for allowing me that time to step away. Hopefully you were binging past episodes. This is episode 191, so you had plenty to choose from. And if you were missing me, here I am. We're back. All right. So I want to talk today about this topic. I was brainstorming topics recently, and this one's kind of near and dear to my heart right now. It's called Identity Shifts as a Mom. And so I recently became certified in something called Blindspotting coaching. And this has to do a lot with learning about areas of yourself that you're kind of blind to, immune to, like you may not notice. It's really part of a self-awareness journey and unpacking of that. And this is a new book that was just released this summer by Dr. Martin Dubin. And if you read this book, part of what you uncover is that we all have these areas that make up who we are, what motivates us, how we behave. And one of those centers around identity. And the cool thing about this is if you get the book, you can also take this awesome assessment and get coaching on it, which again is what I recently got certified in. So it's pretty cool. And I've been on the receiving end of this, and the discovery journey is interesting and really, really cool. But let's get back to this identity thing really quick. So in this model related to this book and these theories, identity is actually one of the easier elements to shift and change. It's in this sort of outermost layer of this sphere. And so it had me thinking about just kind of recent experiences I've been having, past experiences I've had, because identity is really how you see yourself and how others see you. And if there's this mismatch between those two things, you may have a blind spot there. So I was thinking about this from my own life season perspective recently, because I'm like brainstorming topics for today's episode for the season ahead. And something that came up for me was how much of my identity has really shifted since becoming a mom. And I thought this was just fine. And it is, honestly, like we're constantly growing and evolving, and it is all just fine. But also how recently I just reconnected with some of my previous identity just this past summer, and how it actually made me miss her. I'm referring to her as my like past identity a little bit. And so today I figured I would talk to you about this experience, about this like self-awareness I'm still kind of processing. And as always, I hope you find it relatable, helpful. I hope it makes you feel seen if you are also navigating these identity waters with me in whatever way, shape, or form that looks like for you. So I'm going to kind of walk you through some of the things that have been these identity reawakenings or identity shifts, or just things I've kind of dissected as I've been learning more about my own blind spots and just kind of reflecting on the past few months, past few years, past few seasons of where I've been at in my life as a mom, as a professional, as a woman, as a wife, like all the things. So one thing you may or may not know about me is I have always been this very like global person, in a sense of I've always surrounded myself with people from like all over the world, spoken other languages. I love traveling. I mean, every job I've had, every like school I've been to, community I've joined, I usually really gravitate toward international people. And I've been fortunate and lucky enough to work for a lot of global organizations where that was super easy. Like one of my first jobs in the corporate world was designing language communication programs for professionals. And these were either professionals from other countries who were non-native English speakers, or professionals who needed to learn other languages to communicate with colleagues or clients who lived in other places. And so that was really like gratifying in that sense for me. Then I worked in the au pair industry with au pairs from over 40 countries. And I did that for over a decade. So that was really like tapping into that part of me. I used to teach Spanish and Italian before my corporate days. I even grew up in 2 different countries speaking 2 different languages. I've traveled a good amount. And then I became a mom and a lot of my travel kind of dwindled, right? I until this past summer, I hadn't taken an international trip since before I became a mom, a really long time. And now, especially that I work for myself, I don't necessarily have as much interaction in that global space as I used to, as that past identity of myself has had. So I was really reminded this summer when we did take this big international European trip, how much of that part of myself, of my identity, I'd been missing. And I didn't even realize it. Like how much of my identity had kind of been suppressed. And I mean that in the most like compassionate way, no resentment, no shame, no negativity, just this big part of me that I just like hadn't seen in a while. Almost like it's like this long-term childhood friend you had, and then life happens and you grow apart. And when you see each other, you're like, oh my God, yes, like you're cracking me up. And like this person just gets you, or you just get this person. And you remember this part of yourself that maybe you haven't witnessed or seen in a while. And so this summer, we traveled overseas. We also traveled to a place I called home for a number of years. And I just like really missed this part of me and kind of reconnected with this identity piece of like going abroad, eating some of my favorite foods that I love from international places, buying unique and different pieces of fashion, speaking other languages, navigating airports and flights and passports, and having this like super loose schedule and being on this like European time, which that can often mean, depending where you are, that, you know, if you're half an hour late, you're still on time. And so honestly, it was amazing. And this identity that like, I didn't even realize I'd been missing, but I'm so glad I got to reconnect with her because she's so freaking awesome. Like it was just this mind-blowing thing that kind of occurred recently. So I wanted to share that with you. Some other identity things that have been popping up for me, being really fun and carefree. So I feel like I've always had this like deeply rooted sense and responsibility. I don't know if that's because I'm the oldest child. I don't know if that's because I'm the first girl. I have a much younger sibling. Now I'm a mom of 4 kids, but especially in parenthood and motherhood, I've spent the last 12 years, even though my kids aren't 12, I feel like I started becoming this like hyper responsible mom when they were still in the womb. My first are twins. So when they were still in the womb, I was reading the books. I was tracking my protein, my protein intake every day. I was this high risk twin pregnancy. So I just really wanted to like overachieve on doing all the things right. It was my first time doing all this. So I really wanted to excel, but got super hyper responsible. And I think in that time along the way, I lost like a bit of the fun part of me. Maybe some of that's due to some anxiety. Maybe some of that's just due to the number of responsibilities that go with adulting, that go with parenting, that go with having a big career. And I've been reflecting recently and I'm like, man, I used to be a lot more fun. Like I used to be way more fun. And this has actually been a theme that I'm working on this year in 2025. Every year I pick a word, and this was my word this year. I was getting a lot of signs, intuitive nudges that were reminding me of this part of me that I had been ignoring for some time. So some ways I've done this, like I said, I made this my word of the year. I pick a word every year. Past years, it's been words like fulfillment, intentional, repair. That was a weird year. This year, it's fun. And what it's doing is it's making me keep that intention front and center. It's making me prioritize fun just as much as I prioritize other things. And maybe it's not yet quite at that level. We're only, a little more than halfway through the year, I guess. But at least it's like prioritizing it more than I have been. So that's sort of like this identity shift that's also been coming back to me, is like, I want to reconnect with this fun version of myself that I've sort of maybe lost, or at least lessened along the way. Another identity shift that has been coming up for me lately is the shift of slowing down. So I have been working on this one for a while, some of it intentionally, some of it just circumstantially, honestly. Like most of it, if you really think about it, has been circumstantially, because I am one of those people that like, I would always want to be 5 steps ahead of where I am in most of the seasons of my life. And this goes back to like pre-kids, during it, like all the things. But now I'm realizing that the faster I move, no, let me rephrase that. I'm realizing that I move faster when I move slower. What does that mean? Like being more thoughtful, mindful of rest, being more present allows me to be more efficient, more effective, and honestly not feel like I'm just like failing at everything. Because when I try to do everything, I essentially do nothing. Now, that doesn't mean I don't multitask like the best of them. I often do. But I am very intentional about what those things are, and also very comfortable now with setting more appropriate expectations. I once had this client, also a coach, and she said, man, if I just followed 10% of my own advice, I'd be golden. So I am like following my own advice on this. I'm not just guiding people out there. I am thinking this doesn't apply to me. Like I'm doing it. I am intentionally, not just consequentially, slowing down, being more present, because I know I've seen the effects in others, and I've seen it in myself, how much more impactful and efficient and effective I am when I do this. So these are some of the identity shifts I'm feeling like in this moment, in this season. But I also want to talk about some past identity shifts I've had in different seasons, because I'm a firm believer that we are like always evolving, and how holding on to these like past identities can be a real block, a real brick wall that gets in the way of your growth, of your next steps, of your intuitive calling, of your life purpose, of your big goal, any of it. So I want to share with you kind of a past identity shift experience that I think about often when this topic comes to mind for me. So for many years, I identified as being this working mom in a very traditional corporate type of way. Like I had spent nearly 15 years growing my corporate leadership career. I had even been promoted several times within the same company that I was with for over a decade. When I went to the park or a party or a play date and people asked me what I did, it was how I responded. It was just this huge part of my identity. And when it started to feel misaligned, and I knew the time was coming closer to step away from that role that I loved and I worked so hard to get to, and to fully step into this like unknown abyss of entrepreneurship, I was beyond terrified. And I also had this very hard time stepping into this new identity of not having a quote unquote job in the way I'd always had one, right? I had been employed by someone else since I was babysitting at, 12 years old. Like I had a paycheck I was consistently getting since I was 16. I had this identity of, being the title that I had, whether that was like ops director or training manager or even educator. Like now I was stepping into something completely new. In fact, at that time, I was working with a business coach, and I remember I sent her this Voxer message one day, and I was like, I don't even know how to introduce myself anymore. Like, what do I call myself? How do I identify in this new role I'm in? And it was honestly something that held me back from taking that big leap for a while. I was stuck because I didn't know what my new identity was, but yet I wasn't aligned because my current identity at that time didn't vibe with what I wanted to be doing anymore. Super weird place to be, but I want to share with you if this is something you're experiencing right now, if you're sort of in this transition of careers or just identity shifts, like especially if you're shifting from employee to entrepreneur, which I write all about in the book Biz Momagement, the Working Mom's Guide to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur. Check that out if you are in this season of life right now. But some things that really helped me when I was in that place were, number one, like figuring out what to call myself, how to introduce myself. Like basically I needed to develop an elevator pitch for my new identity. And the more I practiced, the more confident I got. I also added my entrepreneurial role to my LinkedIn page. So this was a huge step for me because even though I had been running my business as a side hustle for 3 years, I had never put it on my LinkedIn. I wanted to keep it sort of like different, separated. And I understand some people may choose to hide this or keep it separate from their career professional page, as I did for quite some time. But it was such an important step because it helped me own it. It helped me step into it. It helped me refer to this part of me as my livelihood, as a professional part of who I was. And lastly, I had to just step into my new identity before it was comfortable to be there. And I don't know if this example is going to relate to you, but it's almost like I had to put on the pants that were still a little too tight before I lost the 5 pounds, because otherwise, like I was never going to get the final push to do it. So yes, the pants probably didn't look as killer on me because I needed 5 more pounds to go. the season, like the identity I was stepping into, probably I didn't show as much confidence as I needed to at that stage. But it was like the push I needed to get there. I had to embody that higher version of me, that new identity, to really believe and know that I could get there. It's almost like that saying, fake it till you make it. I had to do that. So I think that's everything I really want to say today when it comes to identity shifts here. I honestly say none of this to make you feel any worry or angst or weirdness about where you are right now in your identity. I think we are always evolving, as I said, especially when we get into these new seasons of life, becoming parents, going from 1 to 2 kids, taking a career pause, making a career shift, having kids at home versus sending them to school. Like all of this can alter our identities a bit. And so if you're feeling any sort of way after listening to today's episode and you want to explore this topic more in depth, please, please, please reach out. We can do a 30-minute breakthrough call, what I call them, where we just like scratch the surface of this. I can recommend different resources, services that could be super helpful to you as you navigate this identity shift, this identity reconnection, whatever it is that you're going through. I would love to support you however I can. I am going to drop in today's show notes links on how to get in touch. Also going to drop a link to the Blindspotting book and website where you can learn more about that awesome assessment, that amazing book, how to work with a blindspotting coach, which you can request to work with me if you want to. And I am just so excited to be back for our 6th season. We have some really incredible guests coming up. Stay tuned. We're talking about like a wide array of topics, anything from how to manage picky eaters to being a mom, CEO of a publicly traded company, to getting a dad's perspective on all of this. Like, I can't wait to share more. So be sure to subscribe to the show, whatever platform you listen from. Drop a review if you can. I'm always so grateful for those. And also be sure to subscribe to the Mama Work It newsletter so you never miss an update from me. All right, my friends, I am out. I will see you soon. Keep on working it. Bye. That's a wrap for this episode of the Mama Work It podcast. I hope you feel empowered, inspired, and ready to take your next step. If this episode spoke to you, share it with another amazing mama, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps us show up wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to head over to mamaworkit.com for free resources, coaching support, and new ways to momage your days as a busy mom. Until next time, keep on working it, mama.